overseas.
Mr. Amy Khor.
Mr. Speaker, with your permission, may I take questions 37 and 38 together?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Singaporeans take pride in a clean and green Singapore, and most do their part to keep the environment clean. However, there is an irresponsible minority that continues to litter and disregard prevailing social norms. To tackle such anti-social conduct, the National Environment Agency has taken a tough stance on litterbugs. Last year, it took 32,000 enforcement actions against littering offenders. While enforcement may serve as a deterrent, it is not the panacea. Our primary line of defense against such behavior should be to foster collective responsibility for our environment and cultivate positive social norms and civic-mindedness among our people. To this end, the NEA and various partner organizations have been conducting campaigns and programs to promote environmental awareness and encourage greater stewardship of our common spaces. The annual Clean and Green Singapore, or CGS, co-organized by the NEA, PUB, the National Parks Board, NParks, and the Community Development Councils, or CDCs, encourages the community to play an active role in keeping Singapore clean and litter-free. There are also other initiatives, such as the Public Hygiene Council's annual Keep Clean Singapore campaign, which advocates the value of maintaining cleanliness beyond our own homes and fostering the habit of picking up after oneself. The month-long event held in May this year saw more than 370 organizations, including grassroots organizations, public agencies and corporations, take part in more than 500 cleanup activities across the island. NEA has also been targeting the publicity efforts at mass events, such as the National Day Parade celebrations, to remind people to pick up after themselves. These efforts reflect a whole of society approach needed to keep our public spaces clean. Our national schools have also set aside time for students to clean the common areas of their school each day. And these activities have helped to inculcate values such as a sense of responsibility and consideration for others, as well as for the environment. By starting young, these positive habits are passed down to the generations, just like in Japan today. To the members' question regarding littering in high-rise estates, our approach is no different. We will continue to work with grassroots organizations and town councils to raise awareness about this issue amongst residents. Unlike public estates, private estates are collectively owned by their residents, and public access to such estates are restricted. Homeowners in private estates therefore have the autonomy to govern and manage the shared private spaces in a responsible manner. For this to happen, residents should come together to encourage and influence acceptable social behavior in their communities. Many condominiums have already put in place bylaws prohibiting littering within their estates. The management committees of these private estates can work with their residents to cultivate the right behavior accordingly. While the government will persist in our efforts to develop greater environmental stewardship, we cannot do this alone. I therefore urge everyone to play their part in keeping Singapore a clean and green city.
Mr. Amy Khor.
Thank you, sir. And I thank the SMS for the information and to thank the NEA officers for the hard work carrying out 32,000 enforcement action last year. The fact that NEA has committed significant resources to enforce against high-rise littering, including the deployment of surveillance cameras, rightly show that NEA and MUA are concerned about the situation of high-rise littering in our neighborhoods. Hence, I want to ask SMS, then, why is there a difference in the approach and actions by the NEA when it comes to enforcing action, whether it's public housing or private housing, the ECs and the condos, especially where the assists in those situations, especially when the littering situation is also very serious and a concern for safety. And lastly, would the ministry keep an open mind and review the need to amend the legislation, as otherwise the NEA will have to resort to a private suit to take the culprit to task in EC and in private estates?
Thank the member for his 3 questions. I'll take them together. With regards to the difference in treatment, let me say that the prohibition against littering under our current law, the Environmental Public Health Act, or EPHA, applies to publicly accessible places only. That's as defined in the Act. Private estates, such as executive condominiums, are restricted, which I've mentioned earlier. So our anti-littering law, therefore, does not apply to littering within these private estates, such as condominiums. And NEA is, in turn, unable to carry out enforcement against littering incidents within these private estates. However, when an MCSD approaches NEA for assistance to tackle cases of high-rise littering, NEA will explore ways to collaborate with them to educate and advise the residents against such antisocial acts. For instance, working with them to send out advisory notices against such antisocial acts. But having said that, many condominiums already have bylaws that prohibit littering within their estates. The management committee of these private estates can actually work with the residents to encourage and influence the right behavior accordingly. And in fact, for private estates where access is largely restricted, in fact, to residents, family members, and their friends, I think it would be best for residents to work together to foster collective responsibility and cultivate the right these bylaws against errant residents. While the process may be challenging, MCSDs can nonetheless turn to this option if all other means at reaching out to the errant resident fail, including even committee mediation, for instance. Amending our legislation to extend our anti-littering laws to private estates would likely elicit negative reactions, such as it being intrusive. So we currently have no plans to amend our current legislation.